Hello, I'm Jay Davenport, Vice President of Development and Alumni Relations at VCU. In this episode of VCU Voices, I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Carmenita Higginbotham, Dean of the VCU School of the Arts. Dr. Higginbotham is an art historian whose research examines 20th century American art. She is also one of the country's leading Disney and pop culture art experts. She has been featured as a scholar and a consultant on several documentaries on PBS and CNN. She is also the author of The Urban Scene: Race, Reginald Marsh, and American Art, which examines the ways in which race is deployed and read in American art. Dr. Higginbotham previously served as chair of the McIntyre Department of Art at UVA. She holds a bachelor's degree in English and art history from the University of Minnesota, a master's in art history from the University of Massachusetts, and a doctorate in art history from the University of Michigan. Carmenita, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Now, you've been here for a short period of time, relatively, for VCU, but why don't you give us a brief overview of your career and what inspired your interest in art history?
Oh, well, I am one of those individuals who sort of fell into art history, although I've always been circling around the arts. I was going to be this fabulous creative writer. I had an entire sort of life plan set out for me. And when I was an undergraduate, I was an English major and a creative writing with a creative writing specialty. And then I had an opportunity to take some additional classes, and I picked up an art history class, and then another and another. And it became very apparent to me that looking at art was a lot like looking at a piece of literature. It had language, it has syntax, it had a sense of expression that was very unique. It had a rhythm and a flow, and it all seemed to sort of come together. And so I spent a little time a very brief amount of time post-graduation as undergrad in advertising. And then I realized I really wanted to go to grad school. I really wanted to continue on this path of being an art historian. And so hence the varied institutions that you listed in my introduction as I made my way through the advanced degrees. I was fortunate that while I was still a graduate student, at the end of my graduate career, that I was hired by the University of Virginia, and that's where I spent 15 years of my career studying art history.
Now, I'm certain that there comes a time as a faculty member and you start thinking about, becoming a chair and maybe seeking some of those administrative positions. What attracted you to VCU and specifically the deanship?
There is something quite extraordinary about the interconnected nature and the significance of the arts. I will have to say one of the primary attractions to VCU Arts is the complexity of the school. And by that, I mean the number and the variety of departments and programs that exist, the opportunities one has to sort of study and engage with the arts. That's the way I've always understood the arts for myself. I was a person who was one class away from being a theater minor. I took dance in the summers while a student, and I just always understood that connection. And to live it, to breathe it in one's career is quite different than taking classes. And so VCU Arts, definitely a premier institution, a premier art school with dedicated faculty and students, with that deep understanding of the interconnected nature of the arts. It was perfect timing where I was in my career. And also, just being with the school being right on the precipice of so much growth and change, as VCU Arts is always doing.
Now, that's one of the things that's very interesting. I've always noticed that art professors seem to have a specialty, but they are interested in many, many aspects, and sometimes various aspects of the arts. And that sounds like exactly what happened to you as well.
It did. I mean, it was And sometimes I think it's a way of looking at the world and responding to the world around you. But the arts trigger everything from critical thinking to creative expression, to having an important footprint on culture and the world. It really is, I have to say, I personally believe this. I really think it's this really exciting intersection of all the vibrant and necessary things that are going on in contemporary culture. This is all playing out in the arts and through the arts, whether it's through medicine or architecture or somewhere in the humanities. It's all comes together with technology. The arts play a pivotal role.
So as dean right now, tell us about some of the interesting things that you're working on.
One of the things I'm very excited about, and that's actually a personal favorite, a thing I'm excited about, is our upcoming graduation, our in-person graduation that's taking place. That moment where we are able to connect with students who have, under extraordinary circumstances, have persevered, our faculty, our staff, our students, that moment of coming together and feeling that energy. So those sorts of activities that are upcoming, I am excited about that. But thinking more broadly about the school, I'm excited about and working on who we are and positioning who we are in a post-pandemic environment. I've articulated many times to faculty and to staff and to some students that we aren't going back. And I think a lot of art schools are feeling that sensation, that there is this moment of a post-pandemic arts education. And what does that look like as we push into continuing on into the 21st century? So this means an increased amount of collaboration activities, the recognition that technology has changed the way we learn, as well as the way we create and the way our faculty engage in creative research. I'm also very excited about the opportunities with our new, not yet built, but in the early stages, Arts and Innovation Building, which will be such a key marker for not only the School of the Arts, but for VCU in general. It is a building that will be positioned at the sort of one of the major gateways of the university along Belvedere and Broad Street. And it's moving along in really exciting ways. I get very excited when folks start mentioning, and we'll break ground on this date. Granted, that date is in 2 or 3 years, but the fact that this energy is really being sort of drummed up about this new site is going to be fabulous for the school. So that's one thing that is definitely occupying my mind.
It may be one of the most exciting things to happen to the art school in the last 25 years. It's going to be a truly revolutionary building for the entire school, and a wonderful addition to the campus.
It definitely will. It's going to pull together so many individuals and so many departments and units. It's going to present definitely VCU's commitment to the arts and its investment in the growth of the arts and the way the arts integrates into the city of Richmond, the campus of VCU, and all of the scholars and students that can come together and really experience this key component to the university. It's going to be great.
Absolutely. So one of the things that's really interesting, every time you and I talk, you have so much energy and passion for the arts, but I'd love to know, where do you find your inspiration? What motivates you to keep going and driving in the arts field?
For me, it is definitely about, and as an art historian, I'm always thinking about, sort of that research component. And I'm always thinking about the ways in which we engage and the way it has happened historically. I'm very interested in what keeps me going are the questions, the sheer number of questions that we can ask, that we can engage in when it comes to the arts, that the variety and the diversity of creative expression over time, not just in the contemporary moment, but for hundreds of years, has really transformed the way we respond to our world. So there is the lasting power of the arts. There's the immediacy of it in any given historical moment. And I keep going back to that. My mind circles back to that because there are always new players. There are always new individuals who can engage and ask fresh questions. It's the opportunity for evolution and change. And that's what, it just fires me up. I want to keep asking. I want to keep pushing. I want to keep integrating and evolving various elements and parts. I just think there's just so much there. How can one just sit by and not be both intellectually and emotionally engaged in the arts? You get both. You get both with the arts. It's perfect.
It is perfect.
Yeah.
So as a first-time dean, what is your favorite story so far?
And not just a first-time dean, Jake. This is first-time dean during a pandemic, which means the campus looks different than how other people remember it. I hear so many stories about, when you stand on this corner, there's students jostling and moving, and you got to get out of the way. You got to make sure that you allow space for them. But it's just so much action and activity. I haven't seen that yet.
Right.
I look forward to it because it's coming. It's going to be great. So one of my favorite stories as a dean, and it happened not that early on, but I had a couple months under my belt. Very excited when I saw people in the building where the dean's office is, in the Pollock building. And because very often, populations are thinned out of observing health protocols.
Right.
And so I'd come into the office and I'd see students in individual singles come into the building, and I would race up and open the door for them and sort of try to chat them up a little bit. Hi, how's it going? And they don't know who I am. And I'm wearing a mask, and I could be anybody, but I do have access to the building, that we do know. And I would say, hey, how's it going? And students, very polite, but also extremely cautious. And I would get the, fine. And then they would head to the stairwell and I would follow because I needed to go. And most recently, the last one I had headed to the stairwell and I stated, I'm going upstairs. I'm going to the second floor. Are you going to the second floor? Oh my gosh, so much suspicion. No, I'm going to the fourth floor. And they would scurry up and scurry away. And it was phenomenal. And I would just laugh, but also recognize that that's kind of where we are right now. We want to engage. I do, they do, but we're not quite sure how. And there's just some strange lady wearing a mask going around talking to random students.
Opening doors for everyone.
Opening doors for people.
So as you prepare for the second year, then, what are some of the things that you're anticipating or looking forward to?
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to the campus opening up.
Right.
I think that one of the vibrant elements of the university and of the VCU arts in particular are the ways in which the arts just sort of surround us, that there are always exhibitions taking place. There are performances that are going on. There's just this 24/7 kind of energy. I'm very much looking forward to that in my second year, having the opportunity to engage with students in person and engage with faculty and staff in person. It's a very odd thing to build community, particularly when you're the new one to the community, in an environment where it's largely digital. You can find, socially distanced activities, but I think it's really important that we dig in on who we are as a school in real life, in real time, with physical, interactions. I think that's key. That's what I'm absolutely most hands down looking forward to. I'm also interested very much in sort of how our students view themselves moving forward in a post-pandemic environment, and really engaging those conversations, whether it's their ability to now participate in internships or externships, their post-professionalization activities, the ways in which they anchor themselves to VCU while they're at the university, and in the School of the Arts. But then when they move on from it as alumni, I'm very interested in connecting that loop of student who's been recruited all the way through to alumni who's maybe graduated 20 years. I think that'll be a key component of next year's activity as well. And then there's the usual dean things, curriculum, fun, definitely thinking about our fundraising activities, thinking about our scholarships that we offer, thinking about how we can best provide creative and research spaces for our faculty, which are key.
So in terms of arts education going forward, I hadn't really thought about this, but in your answer there discussing it, so much has changed even for auditions and visiting campus and the way that artists interact with one another and then choosing schools. How do you see arts education changing post-pandemic and specifically here at VCU?
Yes, I think this is a primary question that a number of not just art schools, but art institutions, whether it's museums, theaters, what have you, are needing to engage with. I think the transformation post-pandemic is going to need to, I think it's going to need to address that we have been altered in how we're willing to engage and receive the arts. I think that's a critical component. And again, it goes back to that statement that I said, we're not going back. So what does forward look like? I think arts education has been altered by, again, what an audience is, what is a creative engagement look like. I think it also, we need to reinvigorate the conversation of what's key about the arts in culture. And I think arts education can work on that, can be a primary player in revitalizing the connection between humanity, experience, contemporary experience, the arts, and innovation. Those all come together as well. These are challenging. These are definitely challenging times, but I think we're gonna come out of it changed, but in such amazing and vibrant and transformative ways. It's almost gonna, I do believe it's almost gonna feel like too much. We're gonna have to sort of hold it back a little bit. And that's a great place to be. That is an exciting place to be. That it's just this onslaught of opportunity.
Now I'm going to do something every dean wishes they had for real. I'm going to give you a magic wand and ask you to think about if you could change something about American higher education, what would you change?
Oh, just one?
Just one.
Oh, heavens. Can it be like, I can't wish for more wishes. It's not that kind of magic wand. I would say for higher education, I think I would wish that higher education would prioritize the arts more than it does. I think that overall in higher education, there is this belief that the arts does not contribute in a particular way, like in a monetary way. I think that the cultural footprint of the arts is so much more substantial than any aspect of higher education recognizes. I think that it should be put front and center. I think it should be a key investment of any school for any area of American culture, definitely. And I think that would be an amazing, beautiful thing. And to recognize that value can be felt and experienced and are sort of reaped in a variety of ways. And it's not simply monetary, that there are things that are just as important.
Oh, I love that. Now, finally, I want to ask you, people have a general knowledge of your background and your academic credentials and a little bit about you, but tell us something about yourself that might surprise people or that's very unique.
Well, you've already stated that I'm interested in popular culture, which is great. That takes that whole thing out of the equation, the Disney work and all of that. I have a black belt in Taekwondo.
Really?
I have a black belt in Taekwondo. About 5 or 6 years ago, my children were going through Taekwondo, and I got a black belt at the same day as my daughter got hers. So I trained for the 2 years, and yeah, so I can break things.
Well, Carmen, it is always a pleasure having a conversation with you. And I do look forward to the coming year when we can take you out on the road and introduce you to more alumni and friends of the university. So
I would love that. It's always good to talk to you, Jay.
Really appreciate your time today. We'll talk again real soon.
Okay. Thank you.